2021, being a Sabbath, I want to welcome you all from the comfort of your homes, and blessed Sabbath to you all as we enjoy the study of the covenant under the fifth angel's message. So, as we are going to study, we have gone past the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth angel's message. Is what we are going to study under the covenant. Shall we enjoy the studies so that they can prepare us for the kingdom? We talk about the kingdom, for we have now come to the end of the angels' messages, as it is said that all 5 angels' messages in Revelation 14, they come to prepare us as a people. And if people do not want to proceed from the 3rd angel's message, we will surely proceed until we have all the 5 angels' messages, as God has given us from the Holy of Holies, so that we are prepared as a people ready for the soon coming kingdom. Now we are going to start with a quote from Great Controversy, page 490, 490.1, which is the first paragraph. Right, shall we read?
Solemn are the scenes connected with the closing work of the atonement.
Right.
Momentous are the interests involved therein.
Mm-hmm.
The judgment is now passing in the sanctuary above.
Right.
For many years, this work has been in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Soon, none know how soon, it will pass to the cases of the living.
Right.
In the awful presence of God, our lives are to come up in review.
Right.
And this time, above all others, it behooves every soul to heed the Saviour's admonition.
Mm-hmm.
Watch and pray,
Right.
for ye know not when the time is. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee.
So we know from 1844, when Christ entered the Holy of Holies, he started with the judgment of the dead. And Sister White says here, soon, none know how soon it will pass to the cases of the living. So you and I who are still alive, we are now in the judgment of the living. So this first, second, third angel's message was the judgment for the dead. That's why those who die in the fate of the 3rd angel's message shall be resurrected when the kingdom starts, in the special resurrection. Now, today, we are on the 4th and 5th, so particularly the 5th angel's message. This proclamation of this message is also to prepare us to judge those who are living, because those who are dead were judged with the 3 angels' message. And those who are living will be judged with this further 2 more angels' message, so that we receive 3 seals. So are we going to wait until somebody else introduces these 2 more angels' messages? We will pry into those messages, because when Christ comes, we should all be sealed, completely sealed, not only with the Sabbath, but with all the 3 seals. So the Sabbath started with the 3rd angel, and also we have these 2 more to give us New Jerusalem and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. Now, shall we read from Revelation chapter 14? It gave us, chapter 14, verse 6 to 3, it gave us the 3 angels' messages. We all know. Now, go to Revelation chapter 14. When it goes up to verse 13, it's only talking about the 3rd angel's messages. And when we go to chapter 14, start with verse 14.
Verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
So a sickle is a sign that now he is coming to harvest. Those messages which continue now are harvest messages. We have 3 angels' messages, which are prayer messages. But now we need these harvest messages. These are the ones that are giving us a seal to separate the wheat from the tares. Now let's go to verse 16.
16.
That's the fifth angel's message.
And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped.
Right?
And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle.
Right.
And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe.
Right. So when we have this sickle, the last sickle of the fifth angel's message, it will give fruit. And we saw the fruits were the vines. So this is the last angel's message, the fifth angel's message, because it says to the word, to the little flock, all these angels' messages are messages coming to the church. Word to the little flock, page 10.5, we are told all these angels' messages from the first up to the fifth, there are messages coming to the church to prepare us as a people. So we have seen when the sickle was thrust, there was grapes. There was the vine which was ripped. So it means there are people who are going to be ripped by the fifth angel's message. Right? Let's go to early writings, page 277. Did Sister White see any further angels after she was preaching the third angel's message? Did she see any angels coming further to her? Now let's hear from 277. I saw
angels hurrying to and fro in heaven,
right,
descending to the earth and again ascending to heaven,
right,
preparing for the fulfillment of some important event.
So after Sister White, you can see, was proclaiming the third angel's message, and she still saw other angels' messages coming to the church. And it says they were hurrying to and fro, preparing now for an important event. Now these angels were bringing these two more angels messages to the church, which will prepare them for an important event. What important event? For the kingdom. Now let's hear more about it.
Then I saw another mighty angel,
right,
commissioned to descend to the earth, to unite his voice with the third angel and give power and force to his message.
So this angel is the last one. That's the powerful one. That's in this angel, which is the same as Revelation 18. If you see the description of this one, it's a mighty angel. Let's go to Revelation 18. You see the same description comes to this angel. It's being the last angels of the five angels. Let's hear Revelation chapter 18.
Verse 1.
This one, yeah.
And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven,
right,
having great power,
right,
and the earth was lightened with his glory.
So this one is the last one, which is Revelation 18. But Revelation 18 had a good tactic, because it was mightier than all these other angels. So Sister White saw angels hurrying too. But lastly, a mighty angel coming. What did that mighty angel say in Revelation 18?
And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils,
right,
and the hold of every foul spirit.
We saw William Miller describing Babylon, which are the churches which were reforming in 1833, that those churches were fallen before. But here we are seeing another Babylon, which is now become the horde of devils. And it's so fearful in its description, but proclaimed by the fifth angel to show that now we have another fresh Babylon. We had this Babylon from 1844, before 1844, which had already fallen. But we have another now, in Revelation 18, another one falling. Did you see that? Now, if we go to, want to see exactly when this Babylon is, go to GC 392. Great Controversy 392. That will tell us about this Babylon. Let's hear what it says. 392. Right.
Point 1.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think I'm not on the same page with what I was talking about. But we'll find out when this Babylon is falling. Go to 606 GC. Yeah. You want to know exactly when this Babylon was seen. When let's hear. That's the
in every age, in every generation.
606.
606.
That's the message of the
Okay.
GC. 606. Yeah, have you got it?
Part that you
Yeah, I have point 2. That's the message.
Point 2.
Second paragraph.
Thus the message
Yeah.
of the third angel will be proclaimed
Right?
as the time comes for that's one.
Yeah.
As the time comes
So
for it to be given.
The introductory sentence there is that's the
That's-
message of the third. I said when William Miller started the first angel's message, he proclaimed Babylon to those churches who refused the advent of Christ. But it was on the first angel's message that they rejected. But we are seeing on the third angel's message, there is another rejection. So this is what Great Controversy is talking about. It says, that's the message of the third angel. Did you hear now? We are on the third. It's not on the fourth, it's not on the fifth. But who denounces that angel of the third is the fifth one. That's, now, let's read from there.
Thus the message of the third angel will be proclaimed.
Right?
As the time comes for it to be given with greatest power, the Lord will work through humble instruments.
We were told in the previous study that the third angel's message cannot only be the Ten Commandments. It should be with the faith of Jesus, which is the ceremonial law. But if the ceremonial law was not together with the third, so when it is proclaimed, it's the third angel being proclaimed with more power. So what is given power? The ceremonial system gives more power to the third angel's message when it was only being preached with the 10 commandments. Now it is being now preached with more power. Now read on.
As the time comes for it to be given with greatest power,
Right?
the Lord will work through humble instruments.
Now we are being told exactly what will happen when this message is proclaimed with more power. God chooses fresh instruments, not those that were used to when they were preaching the third angel's message from 1844. He chooses another type of servants, not the ones that Sister White left. Are we together there?
Yeah.
Now, when this message is proclaimed, combination of the faith of Jesus or of the ceremonial system, which was trying to combine with the 10 Commandments since 1888, now it has come a time when it is being combined with the 10 Commandments. And this is what gives the power. That's why Sister White says in early writing, page 277, that these angels which are hurrying to, they came to join with the third. Now we understand what joined with the third. It is the faith of Jesus, or the ceremonial system now comes to join with where we were in the third angel's message without the faith of Jesus. Now here Sister White is saying, God chooses humble instruments. That's why we see now it's different set of instruments. That's what we saw in Zechariah chapter 6. 2 sets of horses, the bay horse and the grizzled. They were pulling the chariot, same chariot. Now it means now God is harvesting the church with this angel which came with a sharp sickle. Thrust the sickle. What is being thrusted? We are seeing the faith of Jesus being thrusted where the third angel was to combine with the 10 commandments. Now that's this message now combining with the third, as early writing said in 277. Now read on, let's hear.
As the time comes for it to be given with greatest power,
Right?
the Lord will work through humble instruments,
Right.
leading the minds of those who consecrate themselves to his service.
Right. Only those who he chooses will consecrate themselves to his service. Of what? Of combining the 10 and the faith of Jesus. Right?
The laborers will be
Right.
qualified rather by the unction of his spirit than by the training of literary
These
institutions.
are not trained with theology. These are trained by his unction of the Spirit. It's the spirit of prophecy. So it means these ones will be led by a prophet. Did you hear that? Now let's hear.
Men of faith
Men of faith
and prayer
and prayer.
will be constrained to go forth with holy zeal,
They will be constrained to go forth with holy zeal.
declaring the words which God gives them.
Right?
The sins of Babylon
Right?
will be laid open.
So what does the fifth angel do? He lays
The sins of
the
Babylon.
sins of Babylon. What it is actually to become Babylon is to reject the three seals. So you are Babylon already. So the sins of Babylon will be laid open. And what? Yeah?
The fearful results
Right?
of enforcing the observances of the church by civil authority, the inroads of spiritualism, the stealthy but rapid progress of the papal power, all will be unmasked.
Everything will be unmasked. What was done in the Dark Ages, what was the changing of the times and laws will be unmasked. And what?
By these solemn warnings,
Right?
the people will be stirred.
And then people will be awakened by these warnings. Are we being awakened, people? Yes, we will. The fifth angel message, that's the impact of it to the people. And what?
Thousands upon thousands
Thousands upon thousands.
will listen who
Will-
have
will
never
listen.
heard words like these.
Yeah, that's why there is a lockdown. So that thousands and thousands will listen. We stay in their homes and listen instead of being occupied with nothing. There, where they're occupied with nothing, but they should be occupied with the fifth angel's message. When it comes, God will give it to the people when they are listening. And what?
In amazement,
In amazement.
they hear the testimony
Then
that
they
Babylon
start-
is the church.
Then they start hearing that, oh no, we used to think Babylon was those who fell in 1833. But in amazement, they hear it's the very church, which is now Babylon. And what?
In amazement, they hear the testimony that Babylon is the church,
Right?
fallen because of her errors and sins,
Yeah,
because of her rejection of the truth sent to her from heaven.
right. We used to have quotations from Sister White, which when she was preaching in the third angel's message, and there were people who knew that William Miller proclaimed those four churches which refused the Advent message, and he proclaimed them as Babylon. So Sister White used to counsel them, my friend, don't call this one, this church, don't call it Babylon ever. So what she meant was, don't call this one the same as those which rejected the first angel's message. Why? Because the Babylon which we will have is when the fifth angel message proclaims this very one. Because Sister White was preaching before our own had not rejected a message. And we know it's point blank in 1844, we rejected the A.T. John's message. 1888, it's rejected. And then those other churches that were reforming from Babylon and who rejected William Miller's message, it was before 1844. They fell already and they cannot be upright and fall again. But there is another one which did not fall, which Sister White was saying, this one is never going to be Babylon. But it was before that very one also rejected the message, because what made the other ones fall? They rejected William Miller's message. But what makes also the third angel's also message, which Sister White was proclaiming the people, what made them fall? The rejection of a heaven-sent message. Unless we say that heaven-sent message from A.T. Jones and Wakona was not a heaven-sent message, but it was the same as those churches which rejected William Miller's message because they rejected the heaven sent message. Now, that's how we became also Babylon. Did you hear that? Now, from that time, from 1888, that was Babylon. And they were winked because Sister White said the same message should come before Christ comes. It comes with the fifth angel. And when the fifth angel proclaims it, and the acclamation also of rejection, of ejection of that fifth angel is done by the final ones after 1844, then they become now Babylon. Did you hear that? Now here, the sins of Babylon will be laid bare. In amazement, they will hear that the church is Babylon. Why is it amazing? Because we thought it will never fall. Yet it had fallen already in 1888. We thought this will never reject. We thought we will never, but we did reject. So, in amazement, God also proclaimed there is nothing, He's no respecter of person. When He calls the other four churches which He rejected as Babylon, and we also reject, He will still call us as Babylon. He is no rejecter of person. Now here, in amazement, they will hear that the church is Babylon. So let's go back to our quotation. We saw the two angels' messages that are coming to be added, which is the fifth angel's message. The last one is the one which will proclaim Babylon. In amazement, it will proclaim that we are now Babylon. This is what we had. This is the sequence of the events. Now let's hear again from we are in the spirit of prophecy in 609 again.
609.
Mm-hmm. Where it says different periods. 609.1.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Different periods in the history of the church have each been marked by the development of some special truth.
Right.
Adapted to the necessities of God's people at that time.
So it means when it was in the period of William Miller, there was some special truth for the people in the time of William Miller. And then from Sister White, there was a truth adapted for the people in the time of Sister White. And we saw it's the judgment of the dead. Now, in the judgment of these, of the living, we have these truths that are adapted for the people of our time.
Yeah.
Right? We can't be stagnant on the judgment which was in 1844. We have each period of the church has got truth adapted for the period of that time. Now read it again.
Different periods
Right.
in the history of the church have each been marked by the development of some special truth adapted to the necessities of God's people at that time.
Right.
Every new truth
Right.
has made its way against hatred and
What?
opposition.
Right. When it is new, when William Miller preached, there was hatred
And opposition.
and opposition. Is it true? Yes. Especially when he rejected, it was really terrible. I mean, when Christ never came, it was terrible rejection from the people. But every truth is accompanied by rejection and opposition. Now we see Sister White, when she actually proclaimed the third angel's message, she was cast out from the church where she was coming from for preaching that message. And she started to collect influential people who were coming to submit to her message. And he called them Sabbath keepers. But what was happening to those who were not Sabbath keepers at her time? It was accompanied by rejection and opposition and hatred. Now we have this one, the fourth one, we know it was the Davidian. The fourth one, the fifth one is not Davidian. The fourth one is Davidian. It was accompanied also with the hatred and rejection, and people who claim that they actually read even the shepherd rolls, which was with the Davidian. They claim they read it, they don't even know nothing. Not even a sentence was read. Not nothing. The records are there in that book, that so many meetings which were being called off and called off and called. Nobody had it. At least those who were rejecting Christ's message when he came for the first time, they gave him an ear. This never gave an ear at all. According to what is chronicled in that book, nobody, you would check and say, there was a meeting at such a time. What happened? There was nothing. They just went and called off the meeting, or sometime they didn't even attend. It's there in black and white. And people claim they have already read it and they knew it is wrong. How can you denounce something as wrong when you never read it? Now, it was accompanied, it was a truth for that time when it came with Viti Hotef, and it was accompanied with the terrible rejection and hatred. Now, we have also the branch message, which is the fifth angel's message. It was proclaimed by Brother Roden. Roden proclaimed it under hatred and rejection from all these people who are not joining the next one. They will hate it. So here it says different period. So if you're stagnant there, it means this quotation is wrong. So because it says it has a period. So we are not in the period of 1844 now. We are in the period of 2020, 21. So it means there are so many messages that have come when people just say, we are still here in 1844, Sister White. They never saw that the scroll was going on and on and on. Now, we are in the fifth angel's message. Terrible. The fifth angel's message was rejected terribly. Brother Roden was rejected. When he proclaimed the branch message, was rejected terribly. But we, as I said last night, now, so we have these people who proclaimed the first angel's message, third, and fourth, and fifth. We now know as a history it was proclaimed. So, but Malachi chapter 4, verse 4, tells us of something else. Now read Malachi chapter 4, verse 4. 4 to 5, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Remember ye the law of Moses,
Yeah.
my servant,
Right.
which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel, and with the statutes and judgment.
Now, Malachi 4 is telling us that as all the prophets are dead, up to Roden there. So, who now is going to remember? Now, Malachi says, remember that law of the statutes and judgments, which was proclaimed by God to Moses in Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. That law of the statutes and judgments. So what is it going to do with that law? Now read on the next verse.
Behold,
Behold,
I will send you Elijah, the prophet.
he now sends somebody who is not part of these ones, who is independent with no affiliation to all these ones. Because we know these prophets, they wrote all these books. We have the books written, Sister White, A.T. Jones, Wagona, even William Miller. They read, we have the Davidic books. We have them, as we say, Shepherd's. We have also what Brother Roden wrote. As we said, the branch messages from Brother Roden. Now, say somebody completely different who was not in these movements when they were writing those books. These prophets were only used, like what happened to Moses, what happened to Isaiah, what happened to Jeremiah, what happened to Micah, to Daniel, they all proclaimed and wrote books and laid the books. They laid the books in the Bible, which we now still read from these prophets. But God sent a forerunner of the message, who was in the spirit of Elijah. He says, behold, I'll send you Elijah. Now, when John the Baptist came, you find they were asking, is it this Elijah which has been promised? But Christ answered and said, John the Baptist was in a partial fulfillment of Elijah's message. The Elijah who has been promised in Malachi chapter 4, 4 verse 5. Let's read that verse again. 4 verse 5. 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 4 verse 5
Behold,
Yeah.
I will send you Elijah, the
Right.
prophet, before
Right.
the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
The Elijah who was promised should come before the great and dreadful day. That time when Christ came the first time was not a great and dreadful. He came just like a humble man, the humble savior to die on the cross. But this time when he comes with a vengeance, or wearing a garment of vengeance, which he says is also going to have conduct the Ezekiel 9 slaughter with his angels. This is a great and dreadful day. It will be great to people who have been sealed, dreadful to those who rejected the seal. So this is the time we should be expecting Elijah, who has been promised by Malachi. And the difference with this Elijah, with John the Baptist, is that this one came with a syllabus. What is the syllabus on verse 4?
Remember ye the law of Moses,
Right?
my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb, for all Israel, with the statutes
Statutes.
and judgments.
This is not what John the Baptist came with. John came to prepare the way of Christ's coming. But this one also prepares the way of Christ's coming, but with a syllabus. What syllabus? The statutes, which are the feasts, and the judgments. This is the syllabus that the Elijah of the time now proclaiming, after this fifth angel has been proclaimed, after all these scriptures have been written from William Miller, Sister White, and Davidian, and Roden, the branch message, the person who is raised at last comes with a syllabus of what was not taken. Because all these, they took the 10 Commandments. They took the testimonies. But there's something that they did not take. They did not preach and practice. It is the judgments and the statutes of the feast. They didn't. So the last messenger will come to preach these feasts, which are the statutes. Because when we are judged, we saw yesterday that when we are judged, God will use the statute book to judge us. It's the statute book that's going to judge us. So how will he judge the people who were not keeping the statutes? And how will he judge using the statute book? He has to send Elijah before the great and dreadful day of the Lord to preach those that had been omitted by those who were listening to these 5 angels. There is a portion they omitted. They did not keep the feast and the statutes and judgment. They did not keep the statutes. So he sends somebody to complete the syllabus as it was sent to Moses. Moses received 4 laws. Is it true he received 4 laws? When he went to the Mount of Horeb, he received 4 laws. Let's see which 4 laws. From the laws that God had prescribed for his people, there are 4 laws that he was given. Now, in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. Which laws was he given?
Thou camest down also upon Mount Sinai,
Right?
and spakest with them from heaven, and gavest them right judgments,
1,
true laws,
2,
good statutes,
statutes.
and commandments.
You see, there are 4. But of those, the true laws, which are the testimonies, and the commandments, they have been accepted. All the 5 angels have accepted those. But there are 2 which are left, which are the judgments and the statutes. They have not been practiced. The statutes are the first. They have not been practiced. So he sends, for his mercy's sake, he sent the statutes and the judgment with 80 Jones. And we rejected them in 1888. So before the great and dreadful day, he sends a person. Now let's hear for 475 TM. Does he really send somebody? Oh, it's just someone is just everyone is just preaching anything they want. It's spurious. Everyone using the Bible, preaching anything, any topic he just wants. But he brings a syllabus. And the syllabus is statute. And is it a somebody? Now let's hear.
Prophecy must be fulfilled.
The prophecy of Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5 should be fulfilled, or promising this Elijah.
The
Right?
Lord says,
The Lord says,
Behold, I will send you
Right.
Elijah the prophet
right?
before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Right?
Somebody is to come
There is somebody.
in the spirit and
It's
power.
not this multiplicity of people, pulpits. It's somebody's work. So we have a prophet in the last days. Somebody is to come. Listen to that.
Somebody is to come
Yeah?
in the spirit and power of Elijah.
Right?
And when he appears,
Right?
men may say,
Right?
You are too
You
earnest.
are too earnest.
You do not interpret the
You
scriptures.
don't, it was all nailed
in the
to
proper
cross.
way.
All these statues you are talking, they were nailed to the cross. You don't understand. We have got exegesis and scatologically the things that, they come with all sorts of big words to nullify Elijah's message. This is what we have been warned by Sister White. Somebody is to come in the spirit and power of Elijah. Now, if you think you are the promised one, and in your pulpit you are the promised one, and preaching something else which are not the statutes and the judgments, you are not. The message itself has nullified you. The message you are preaching has taken you off the ground. But because the message of Elijah, who is called, is not even Sister White, she's dead. It's not even William Miller, she's dead. He is dead. And it's not even these two guys who preached these two other messages. They are dead. It should be somebody who will come and compile all that has been given, the 5 angels' message given to the church, simplify them, but concentrate on the statutes and judgments so that people have a complete 4 sets as it came on Mount Sinai in Nehemiah chapter 9 verse 13. So somebody has to make sure they are all complete so that the people receive all their seals. So what has been left actually in our syllabuses or in our church policies is what was going to give us the letter N, or what was going to give us the seal. So what A.T. Jones brought in 1888 was to make us get those 2 seals. We rejected. So he must come, the prophet, the last prophet must come as a somebody with those things that we rejected in 1888, or the letter N that we are crying for day and night. When that letter N comes, it comes with Revelation chapter 18, making sure what we rejected, what we don't want to hear, is what we start practicing so that we get the seal. Now let's go to our lesson. So we have been told different people, different periods in the history of the church have each been marked by the development of some special truth. So if Sister White was in a different period, would she tell you that now the church is Babylon? No. So the 5th angel should proclaim that, because it's a message which came in the time of the 5th angel's message. Did you hear? Now, and then every new truth has made its way against hatred and opposition. Now, let's read that statement in full again.
Every new truth has made its way against hatred and opposition. Those who were blessed with its light were tempted and tried.
Right. So those who received the 5th angel's message, they have to go through a lot of time of trouble from other brethren who do not receive. Yeah, it's a time of trouble such as never was, but it's spiritual persecution, not physical. Now let's hear.
The Lord gives a special truth for the people in an emergency.
That truth that comes is in an emergency, right? And
who dare refuse to publish it?
If it comes to you, who dare refuse to publish it?
He commands his servants to present the last invitation of mercy to the world. They cannot remain silent.
No.
Except at the peril of their souls.
Right.
Christ's ambassadors have nothing to do with consequences. They must
when
perform.
You are given, that's why we had people who were martyred. The martyrs in the Old Testament, as we read, Jeremiah, Isaiah, they would die for the truth that they are preaching. Why? Because they have no problem with the consequences. They say it as it is, and no problem. All the prophets in the Bible, you saw they were so hated They were so, because when they proclaimed, they knew they were under hatred and opposition, and they would be persecuted or even killed. Even the disciples, Peter, was laid even upside down. He had to choose to say, do not crucify me like the Savior, like that. I have to go upside down. So they had no problem with whatever will come after that message. No problem with consequences. This is what spiritual prophecy is telling us. Every truth, when it comes to you, if you still have problems with consequences, you have not fully been sent. If you are fully sent, you have no problem with any consequence. It will meet the Lord. Whatever weapon which comes because you have proclaimed the truth will meet its consequences. God is going to deal with it. You leave everything to God. That's why you see even the reformers, John Huss, Jerome, all those, when they were dying, even set on fire, they were singing. They had no problem with consequences as long as the word has gone, as long as God has put the Spirit and makes sure the word is going. Leave the consequences with God. This is how the message will be proclaimed in the fifth angel's message. They have no problem with consequences. No problem at all. And
they cannot remain silent except at the peril of their souls. Christ's ambassadors have nothing to do with consequences. They must perform their duty and leave the results with God.
Now we are told here, while Sister White was predicting what will happen to the fifth angel, she wrote another article that we should be, we are talking about the fifth angel's message. It's a big movement, because we have been told the angel is mighty. This is the mighty, and nothing of that expression came to these three angels' message, or nothing to, but the final message, which is the fifth angel, is a mighty angel. It's a movement. Revelation 18 is a movement. All these angels' messages, whether the first angel's message was the first day Adventist, it was a movement. And we have also the verse 9, where Sister White was proclaiming the third angel's message. It was a big movement. And we have also the Davidic movement. It's a big movement. Now we have the last one, which is the branch, which is a big movement. All Revelation 18, when it comes, it is a movement. Yeah? And here we are told by Sister White, when it described the fifth angel's message in Testimonies to Ministers, page 300, you find here at the bottom there, it says, there will be those among us. Or you can go to the estate itself to start where it should start.
Testimony to Ministers.
Page 300.
Let me just read it.
Right.
There will be those among us.
When this message is going on, there will be those among us. Who are these?
There will be those among us who will always want to control the work of God.
Right?
To dictate even what movements shall be made when the work goes forward under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel.
Those among us wanting to control if there is a prophet, so why are we like this? If there is no one supposed to be, no women or nation, no one, they want to control what should be expected and what should not be expected. It has been written black and white, and let's hear.
There will be those among us who will always want to control the work of God.
Right?
To dictate even what movements shall be made when the work goes forward under the direction of the angel who joins the third angel in the message to be given to the world.
Now, the message to be given to the world is not going to be done by the third angel, but it will be done by the angel who comes to join the third. This is exactly from, if you understand English better, it says in the work of the let's hear the sentence properly. When the work goes forward under the direction, did you hear? It should be under the direction of the angel who joins the third. So you find those who are leading the third angel's message, they want to control the angel coming to join the third. There is a movement coming from this other angel, coming to join the third. and it's got its own direction, but you still want to direct it. You understand? You still want to dictate how it should, how you should dress, or how it should be. A woman should be a man. You want to direct when you're in the third angel's message. You want to direct an angel coming to join the third, a movement coming also to continue with the work. You want to direct it. This is what God has told us. There will be those who come and say, we want to direct, we want to tell you how to preach the message. You are not preaching it right. We saw that Sister White says when Elijah comes, the final prophet comes, they will dictate and say, let me teach you how to preach the message. You do not understand it properly. They want to direct it. They want to direct everything. Now listen, what happened? There will be those,
God will use ways and means,
right,
by which it will be seen that he is taking the reins in his own hands.
When God uses this fifth angel's message, he will use ways and means that he will be seen that he has taken the reins into his own hand. Because we're told by Revelation 14, verse 16, that it was Christ himself with a sickle. So this is not an ordinary angel. No. This angel is Christ himself coming to take the reins. So where does he come to take the reins? When he is preaching the last message of the hour, he will also have a prophet. But who is behind the prophet is Christ himself with a sickle. And he says, listen, there will be those who want to control. And then this angel which is behind is not a normal angel like it was the angel which used William Miller, or the angel which used Sister White, or the angel which used the V.T. Hotef, but now when this work is coming to be simplified by the prophet of the hour preparing the way for Christ's coming, there will be those who come to dictate how you should say it and how you are not fit. You should be a man or you should be a woman, so for you to do this and that. There will be some who come to direct it. But listen, God will use ways and means that it will be seen that he has taken the reins into his own hands. That's what the sentence said. Read it again.
God will use ways and means by which it will be seen that he is taking the reins in his own hands.
Right.
So
he doesn't take the reins through these past messages or past messengers. No. Yeah? He doesn't use ways. Because if you see, each one who preached, from William Miller, Sister White, David and Roden, they all had ministries. But look at the ministry that God uses at last. He will show that now he has taken the reins after the 5 angels' message has been given to the church. Now he comes to direct everything, and there will be ways and means that he uses to show the people he has taken the reins into his own hand. Let's hear.
The workers will be surprised by the simple means.
Now, the workers also, the workers of these ministries, they'll be surprised by the simple means. Did you hear? What simple means? Listen to that.
The workers will be surprised by the simple means that he will use to bring about and perfect his work of righteousness.
The workers will also be surprised how the work of righteousness will be perfected. They will be surprised how God will use these simple means. Where you expected something, a big power or something to proclaim, he will just use something very simple. Very simple. Gone are the times when you expected a big minister come with a big tummy like that to tell you God wants you to keep there. No, nothing like that. Not even. It will use simple means. Yeah, it's used people like children or females come and dictate. You will use simple means to perfect his work. Now let's hear. We're enjoying this prophecy about the 5th angel's message. Let's go to another one here on the General Conference Special, page 26.0. There is a point there which I loved. The truth stands.
The truth stands.
Right?
The truth stands forth like the light of the day, that Elijah's message is the message of the judgment of the living.
The truth stands, whether we like it or not. Like it was with the time of Elijah the Tishbite. The truth was they had to keep the statutes and judgments. That was his message. And the truth will stand when we are about to enter the kingdom. When Christ is about to come, the standing truth is those who will be judged, the judgment of the living will be proclaimed. The message is the message of the judgment of the living, of the statutes and judgments. This is the message of people who are judged when they are alive. They have to keep the feasts. They have to keep the 10 commandments and the faith of Jesus. These are they who keep the commandments and have the testimony of Jesus, which is the faith of Jesus, which is they have to have a prophet. That truth will remain and that truth will stand. So God has said, let's go to the verse in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 17, and I want to verse 24 and 25 there. And the Lord commanded. Yeah, let's hear. Is it true that the living will be judged with the statutes and judgments? Yes, it's true. And this is the 5th angel's message. Right?
Deuteronomy 6, verse 17.
Yeah, verse 17.
Ye shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord, your God, and his testimonies and his statutes, which he hath commanded thee.
Right?
Verse 24.
Uh-huh.
And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes,
Right?
to fear the Lord our God,
Right?
for our good always.
Now these, they give us what is called righteousness. This is what the Deuteronomy chapter 6 says, you diligently keep the statutes. And in verse 24 it says, repeat verse 24.
And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes,
Right?
to fear the Lord our God.
The purpose is we have to fear God. That's why he says in Malachi chapter 3 verse 16, those that fear the Lord, they often spoke to one another, and the books were written. Their names were maintained in the book of life. We have to keep the statutes to fear God. And what other purpose?
For our good always,
For our good always.
that he might preserve us alive.
It is our protection. That's why the seal, when I say the 3 seals on the forehead, is our protection. It is to preserve our lives. Look at what we have, all these people things being released by the 4 winds. And the 4 winds, we have pestilences. We have seen the pestilences. What is the protection? It is the 3 cells. Earthquake. All this. When God says this is your protection, it's true. And now let's hear.
And it
is our protection.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Now read the verse again. Verse 24. Uh-huh.
And the Lord commanded us to do all these things, all
Right.
these statutes,
Right.
to fear the Lord
What's
our
the
God,
purpose of the statutes?
to fear
It's
the
to
Lord,
fear God. And what?
for our good always,
This is where we get our blessings, right?
that he might preserve us alive,
And also the protection. This is a blessing. And what?
as it is at this day.
Until this day, this is what he uses to protect the people. And 25.
And it shall be our
And
righteousness,
this is our seal.
if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God, as he commanded us.
So why are we keeping all this? What is the judgment for the living? It's protection.
Yeah.
It's your blessings. It's the statutes. It brings all that. And what a privilege in a time when everyone is running upside down with pestilence, with everything. What a protection that. What a friend in Jesus to give us all this protection. Yeah, all the blessings, all the things that make us fear God. You say you are fearing God. There it is. There it is. Say, it's between me and God. You should fear God. And what does he say? How do we fear God? Keep the statutes. Keep the commandments. Keep the testimonies. Keep all these laws that he has given. 4 laws on Mount Sinai. This is your protection. This is your righteousness. Now here, let's go to 2TG number 37, page 24. There, you're obeying. Now, what does it? There, just below the verse.
Okay.
You're obeying.
You're obeying all the commandments and
Did you hear?
statutes
Did you hear?
and the judgments
Mhm.
of the moral law of the moral law of Moses,
Mhm.
you see, is your evidence
Right.
that you have been born again.
I've heard people say, I'm a born again Christian. I'm a born again. Your evidence. Did you hear? You're obeying all the commandments
And statutes
and
judgments
judgments
of the moral law
of the moral law
of Moses, you
Yeah,
see, is your evidence that you have been born again.
Have you been born again? And you find someone, I'm a born again, what are you keeping? Nothing. You show evidence that you're born again. And God has clearly says, that's your evidence now that you are born again. Now, let's hear. Right?
That you have been endowed with the power from above.
That's what will show us that these laws have come to you because God has endowed you with the power from above. Because we remind you that it says, I saw a powerful, in early writing, page 277, a very powerful, mighty angel. Do you see what it is that this powerful angel had? The statutes. The other day we said Moses spent 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Sinai and came out bright. What made him bright? The statutes, the feasts. Yeah. Now, when you want to be endowed with the power, now you want to prove it. Before you finish that one, let's go to the in Malachi chapter 4. It states 4 verse 5. I mean, start reading from 4 and then want to see the purpose. What does that the statutes do actually?
Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in the Horeb, for all Israel,
right?
With the statutes and judgments.
Right.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Right.
And he shall turn the heart of the fathers.
You see, when this law is preached, it will turn the hearts of what?
Fathers.
Of the fathers.
Of the fathers to the children.
To the children.
And the heart of the children to their fathers.
Right.
Lest I come and smite the earth with a curse.
Why would he say that? When we do not have these statutes and judgments, he will come and smite the earth. He will smite because of the statutes and the judgment. Now he says, if you want to go back to the Father is in heaven, and the children, we are children. The statutes and judgment will turn the hearts of the Father to. Now, when we're reading, 2TG says, this is the evidence that we have been endowed with the power from above. Now, let's finish that 2TG.
You're obeying all the commandments and statutes and judgments of the moral law of Moses.
Right?
You see, is your evidence that you have been born again, that you have been endowed with power from above, that you are enabled to choose the good and to refuse the evil, that you are the children of God.
Now, this is one mark in heaven to show that you have been endowed with the power from above. And this is one mark which shows that you are a child of God. Yeah, and keeping the commandments. Yeah.
Keeping the commandments and the statutes in the Lord, then is the light and shield of your life.
That becomes a light and shield of your life. You know, you go and stay whether in a bushy area, as long as you are keeping the statute, the commandments and statutes, you are protected. You have a shield. That's why I said the 3 seals will give you a shield, and these laws will give you a shield. You've got a shield already. You are protected. So many people are, when this COVID started, some people say, it's more from Europe. Europe, they're dying more. Let me go to Africa. You go to Africa, there it is again. And you say, let me go to Tanzania. You go, there it is. Let me go to Zambia. There it is. Everywhere. But you only need one thing. You don't need to be running up and down. You only need a shield. That's what the Bible is saying. It says this is the only shield that you can brag about and say, come what may, I've got a shield. Whether it comes and goes and leaves me. It's a shield. God is saying, this is your only shield that we have in the last days. And God knows how many things are coming. God knows how many things. And just yesterday we're being told, oh, there is another third phase. Oh, and the third phases will come, fourth phases and fifth phases. But you need a shield. You only need a shield. And the shield are these statutes and judgment. This is your shield. This is what you are getting from the Spirit of prophecy. Now read on, let's hear. Keeping the commandments and the statutes.
Keeping the commandments and the statutes in the
In the
Lord.
Lord.
Then is the light and shield of your life.
Right?
It is the outward sign that by the life of Christ you have overcome the enemy of your soul and body.
This is the only thing that makes you run away from the enemy. That's why God is particularly prescribed a person in the last days called Elijah, in the spirit and power of Elijah, to give these statutes and explain their simplicity, where people are, the devil is deceiving people by nailing them to the cross. Now let's hear this.
This system of worship, therefore, is truly the righteousness by faith.
Right?
That brings...
Which system of worship is righteousness by faith? I've heard people, I'm now going to proclaim righteousness by faith by A.T. Jones. You don't even mention about the statutes and judgments. This is what they brought. The law of Galatians, the schoolmaster, and which Sister White said is both the ceremonial and the moral law. And then you are telling me that you are proclaiming a message of righteousness by faith when you don't even mention what makes you righteous. Now here the Spirit of prophecy tells us that this is the only method. Did you hear that? This system of worship, go let's hear.
This system of worship,
right,
therefore, is truly
the righteousness.
Is truly the righteousness by faith that brings the righteousness of Christ in the people of God.
Did you hear that? Now you go check the whole Bible from Moses' time to John's time in Revelation. The system of worship was of the statutes and judgments, the 10 commandments, as it was given on Mount Sinai, these true laws. This is the only system. Now you go everywhere. That's why God has just, sometimes you say he locked everything. Why? Because the system of worship. He wants the system of worship.
Yeah.
The system of worship should be in accordance to what he has prescribed. And he goes in there, it's not even mentioned. And he says, where is the system of worship I prescribed to Moses? Where is it? This is the only righteousness by faith. This is what the scripture, the Spirit of prophecy is saying. This is the only system of worship which God has prescribed for the people. And he wants people to take that system of worship. And the church triumphant, where there is only wheat without tares, will have a system of worship. The statutes and judgments, the commandments, all as 4 given to Moses on Mount Sinai. These will be there in the kingdom. Now, let's go to Great Controversy, page 611, first paragraph.
The angel who unites in the proclamation of the third angel.
Now here we are not talking about the third angel, but we are talking of the angel who unites with the third. Did you hear the terminology? There is an angel who unites with the third, which is the 5th angel we are talking about. This angel, let's hear Sister White talking about this angel. Listen, the angel who unites.
The angel who unites in the proclamation of the third angel's message.
Right?
Is to lighten the whole earth with his glory.
So if you are stuck with the third and think you are going to lighten the whole earth, Sister White doesn't say so. Sister White said there's an angel which will come to unite with the third, which will lighten the world. Now, you are stuck with an angel with the angel's message, which will never lighten. The only angel which will lighten, according to Sister White, is the angel which she saw coming to unite with the third. Now, if you do not know that angel which is going to lighten and think Sister White's message is going to lighten the world, start to redo things. Start redoing things, because you might get it lost. The 5 foolish virgins did not top up. They did not top up their oil because they refused those other angels messages that were going to top up what Sister White had taught. So it means we have to sit down and say, what did Sister White teach? And what is this angel coming to lighten? obviously it's got another tactic which is much superior to what Sister White, that's why Sister White is talking about that angel coming to lighten the angel who unites in the proclamation of the third angel's message is to lighten the whole earth with his glory. So the statutes and judgments, when they are preached, the whole earth should be
Lighten.
it should go and put light to everyone in the four corners of the world. Right? The Advent movement.
The Advent movement.
In 1840. Right?
The Advent movement of 1840 to 44
right?
was a glorious
manifestation of the power of God. Now, when William Miller preached, he did not preach to just a national church. That was it. It was a global. The message William Miller proclaimed that Christ was coming in 1844. It was a global.
It's a global, yeah.
Miracle of the world. Now here we are being told the Advent movement of 1840, which is William Miller's message, was a glorious manifestation of the power of God. Right? Let's see. But these
are to be exceeded by the mighty movement under the last warning of the third angel.
Now, it says the preaching of the fifth will exceed the preaching of William Miller. These are to be exceeded. The manifestation of the power of God will be exceeded by the mighty movement under the last warning of the third angel's message. The last warning will exceed what God had done for William Miller. It will be more global itself. That's the last movement. It is not the third angel's message because it doesn't lighten the world. The angel that lightens the world is the one that joins the third angel's message. It's the one that will exceed even the one that was preached by William Miller. This is what we are taking from the scripture. Right? And read on. The work.
The work,
right,
will be similarly to that of the day of Pentecost.
Now, the work of the fifth angel will be similarly to what after the day of Pentecost there was power. There was power in the message of the day of Pentecost, former rain when it was poured. Then this work of the fifth angel will be similar to what it was on the day of Pentecost. Now, it's not the third for Sister White. It will be the angel coming to join the third. Did you hear that? Did you hear proper grammar? English says it's the third. It's not Sister White's message. It's the other angel coming to join with another movement, coming to join where Sister White left. And this the one that will be exceeding bright, more than William Miller's angel. Now let's hear more testimonies for the church, volume 5, page 252.2. Now we are just going with the angel of the fifth, preaching these statutes and judgments. And this is the covenant of God manifest in the last days. We heard that the ark will be disclosed in the last day, but you are not waiting for those wooden ark which was hidden by Jeremiah. No, it will be people preaching the statutes and judgments which were there in the ark. Now let's hear the spirit which characterized. We want to see how this message, which starts with just minute people as you think they are minute, but it will swell. Did you hear that? It will swell in a loud cry, lightening the whole earth. Now let's hear that. The spirit.
The spirit which characterized that wonderful meeting on the day of Pentecost is waiting to manifest its power upon the men who are now standing between the living and the dead as ambassadors of God.
Now God has selected men who will stand between the living and the dead to have this power, which was manifested on the day of Pentecost. What was manifested? One, on the day of Pentecost, it was a day of a statute. It was a feast. It was a statute. It was a day of a feast. These people were keeping the feast. They were keeping the daily, 3rd hour and 9th hour. Exactly. This is what the Spirit will be like. When this angel swells in a loud cry. Now we are in the fifth angel's message, not in the third, not in the fourth, but in the fifth. This will lighten the whole world. Now let's hear that. The power.
The power which stirred the people so mightily in the 1844 movement
This is the power now which stirred the people so mightily in 1844 when William Miller preached.
will again be revealed.
Will again come in the fifth. Did you hear that? Now let's enjoy when God now is manifesting. You will not just drop here and say, I've come. No, you prepare people. First, you make sure these people have got the right message. The statutes and judgment, as he promised Elijah. And when they have that, they will be brightened. This will unite them with the power from above. That's what Malachi said. The hearts of the fathers and the hearts of they combine. And once they combine under a prophet, let me tell you one thing, they will be under a prophet, whether I like it or not. Judgment for the living will be under a prophet. Same as judgment of the dead was under a prophet. Sister White in 1844, when it was judgment of the dead, she was the prophet. And judgment of the living, we will also have a prophet. But this will be a mighty movement, a mighty, like it was in the time of William Miller, like it was on the day of Pentecost. Mighty, it was a global, known everywhere. Now let's hear the third, the power which stirred. Continue that.
The power which stirred the people of the power which stirred the people so mightily in the 1844 movement will again be revealed.
Right.
The third angel's message will go forth,
Yeah.
not in a whispered tone.
Now it's not in whispered tone. People just say, oh, the branch, oh, no, it's for something. Now, the devil has smeared the name branch, smeared it so that it is a snuff in the people's nose. But let me tell you one thing, the name branch is the name of Christ. And you'll never overthrow the name. You'll never it had come, the message had come for a purpose. Though people misused it and abused it, but it will come with the right people. It will come with the right people to be proclaimed the right way God wants it. And it will not be in whispered tones at all. Did you hear? It will be broadly said out. Now, it says here, that is testimonies for the church. The third angel's message will go forth. Listen.
The third angel's message will go forth, not in whispered tones, but with a loud voice.
Right. And we knew that if we are only keeping 10 commandments without keeping the feast, you are not proclaiming the third angel's message. The third angel's message is proclaiming the 10 commandments and the faith of Jesus on the feasts. This is what the two, when they are combined together, then you have the third angel's message. So when it is preached, it's now proper third angel because it's combined with the feasts. And it will be not in whispered tones. It will be rightly said by the right people. God has selected ambassadors who will stand between the living and the dead to proclaim this one with the power he gave on the day of Pentecost, with the power he gave William Miller. It will be known globally. Now let's hear another quotation. Yeah, we enjoy today as we study the feast of the Lord, right? Let's go to when he says in Leviticus chapter 23 concerning these are my feasts. This is the work. Go to where it says in verse 1, 6 days.
6 days shall work be done.
Right.
But the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a feast day.
Right. When the Sabbath day is a feast day. Why? Because it's a convocation. When you are coming together, you are keeping a feast. Because the 10 Commandments doesn't say so. Leviticus 23 says convocate.
Yes.
So when you convocate, it's a feast. So all the feasts, you convocate. So that's how to keep the feast as feasts. You understand? Now, verse 3. And holy convocation.
And holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
That's it. In your homes. Now you are in your home. This day, the angel will inspect every home to find that you are keeping the Sabbath. So that's the first feast. Expect everything to see that everything is at rest. Let's hear. We are to keep the Sabbath down there. We are to keep the Sabbath.
We are to keep the Sabbath day. Sorry. We are to keep the Sabbath feast day
Right.
holy and convoke
convocate.
an assembly to feast upon the precious truths found in God's holy word.
That's why we have a virtual convocation to say wherever you are, this is what God wants. Rest and convocate. Convoke an assembly of feast upon the precious truths. What should we do on the Sabbath? Feast on the word of God. That's what we are doing right now. We are feasting on the word. We are eating it. Eat the word, right? And if the Sabbath
If the Sabbath is a feast day to be kept holy, then the other feast days are likewise to be kept holy. As no place in the Bible or the spirit of prophecy are we told that they were nailed to the cross.
Right.
In fact, the apostle says,
Now, the apostle, let's go what the apostle says in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 and 8. What does he say?
purge out, therefore, the old leaven,
Right?
that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened.
Right?
For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness,
Right.
but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
Right. So you see, when we read on Patriarchs and Prophets, page 365, first paragraph, we are going to read down below. You find that the Sabbath, the ceremonial system, that's what I want, the ceremonial system.
The ceremonial system was made up of symbols pointing to Christ,
Right?
to his sacrifice and his priesthood.
Now, when you go back to the ceremonial system, you find that there were symbols pointing to Christ. But we want to see which one, because when people say the ceremonial system was pointing to Christ, we want to see which symbols which were pointing to Christ. We saw the animal sacrifices were pointing to Christ. Now, let's hear.
The ceremonial system was made up of symbols pointing to Christ,
Right?
to his sacrifice and his priesthood. The ritual law, with its sacrifices and ordinances, was to be performed by the Hebrews until type meant antitype in the death of Christ,
Right?
the Lamb of God that
That
taketh
taketh
away the
away.
sin of the world.
Then
all sacrificial offerings were to cease. It is this law that it is this law that Christ took out of the way, nailing it to his cross.
it's clear in the spiritual prophets what law was taken off.
Sacrifices.
The sacrificial law of symbols pointing to Christ. It is this law which was nailed to the cross. Did you see it?
Yeah.
It will be.
It would be a denial of Holy Writ to say all the ceremonial law of Moses was nailed to the cross.
Right?
In fact, as Sabbath keepers, we believe we should not eat the unclean things
Right?
and those offered to idols, and that we should pay a faithful tithe in support of the gospel ministry, all of which are requirements of the ceremonial law.
Right. Now, I want to give you one thing. When Christ was washing the feet of the disciples on the Passover, he was instituting how we should keep that law of the Passover. So the washing of the feet is not a Ten Commandment. What is it?
Right.
What is the washing of the feet if you say the ceremonial law was nailed to the cross? So why are we still washing the feet? And why are we taking the bread and wine? Because it's not on the Ten Commandments. All this because people are busy keeping the ceremonial law, thinking that the animal sacrifice was the only ceremonial law. But the only part which was nailed to the cross is the animal sacrifice. The Lord's Supper is not a 10 commandment. It is a ceremonial law. The washing of it, the taking of the bread and wine. All this came from the ceremonial law. Yeah? The clean meats that we say we eat clean meat, this is the ceremonial law, the tithes and offerings. These all were in the ceremonial system. So we are keeping the ceremonial system without knowing and just picking and choosing what we want, which is not. If we are only on the 10 commandments, let's meet everything in the 10 commandments. But if it is the 10 and these other things that we are going for holy convocation on Sabbath and also want to convocate for the Feast of Tabernacle, what are all these? They are not in the 10 commandments. This is a ceremonial law. We are attempting the ceremonial law without a proper way of keeping the ceremonial law. Now, let's hear from volume Testimonies for the Church, volume 6, page 368.3. What does Sister White say there?
God teaches that we should assemble in his house to cultivate the attributes of perfect love. This will fit the dwellers of earth for the mansions that Christ has gone to prepare for all who love him.
Now we say in John 14, he is going to prepare a mansion. But what is he going to fit the dwellers with? There will be, let's see, how are they going to be fitted for those mansions?
There they will assemble in the sanctuary,
right,
from Sabbath to Sabbath,
right,
from new moon to another, from
right,
one new moon to another.
Now, did they say they are going to assemble on Sabbath? And what law commands you to assemble on Sabbath? The ceremonial law. What law commands you to assemble on new moon? The ceremonial law. And still, these laws of the ceremonial system that teach us to convocate are fitting us so that when we are in heaven, we assemble on those days because we are already practicing them on earth. Did you see that? So the ceremonial system is there even in heaven. If they are keeping the new moon, it's a ceremonial law. If they are keeping the Sabbath by assembling, it's a ceremonial law because it's in Leviticus 23 where we are admonished to go and assemble on a Sabbath. So we assemble on a new moon, we assemble on a Passover, we assemble on a Day of Atonement, on a Pentecost, on a Feast of Tabernacle. So let's not just do things as if we are neither for it or neither not for it. That's why we come to be called Laodiceans, because we're neither hot nor cold. So if we do not want to keep them, let's stop keeping them and just keep the 10 Commandments without assembling. But if we want to assemble, the assembly is a feast. Now, let's go to another quote. Christ Object Lesson. The Christ Object Lesson, page 133.1. The significance.
The significance of the Jewish economy is not yet fully comprehended.
Right, because we are still picking this one, picking the tithes, picking the clean meats, picking the tabernacle, and picking the Sabbath, and leaving everything that is in the significance of the ceremonial law. That ceremonial law is the Jewish economy. So we are just picking and picking. So it's not fully comprehended. She's not saying it's not comprehended. We are having it. We have it in tithes. We have it in Lord's Supper. But we are not having it fully as it was prescribed to us. Now, it's not fully comprehended, right? Truths?
Truths vast and profound.
Right.
Truths vast and profound are shadowed forth in its rites and symbols.
Right.
The gospel is the key that unlocks the mysteries.
Now, this whole ceremonial system is a gospel with the key. You know the key that Peter was crying for. I've given you the keys. These are the key. If you worship without this ceremonial system, without these assemblies, you don't have the key. This is the key to the gospel. You unlock the gospel with those keys. These are the keys given for you to be able to prepare a people to worship God, right? Let's hear what is the ceremonial system, because people, they don't have a clue of what the ceremonial system is. I would divide it into 3 parts. The ceremonial law was divided into 3 parts. Let's hear the first part where it says the first part there down. The first is the ceremonial. Just down below, I sent it.
Okay.
It's in 2 TG 37.14, fourth paragraph. That's what I want, number 1.
The first is the ceremonial law, the law of the temple, the sacrificial law.
Now, the first law on the ceremonial system is called the ceremonial law,
The law of the temple.
or the law of the temple, or the sacrificial law. Right? Let's hear more about it. This law, we are reading from 2 TG 37. This law,
This law, of course, we today must not observe,
right?
except in antitype.
Right. This law of the sacrifice, we should not observe it, except where?
In
antitype. Right? That's
For it's foreshadowed things to come, particularly Christ's first advent.
So what was it pointing at? It was pointing at the advent of Christ. That sacrificial law. So we shouldn't keep it. That's the first portion of the ceremony. It's got 3 portions. If you want to know more about the ceremonial law, it's got 3 portions. The first one is the sacrificial law, or the law of the temple, right? And that's
Thus it is that if we had lived in Old Testament times and had failed to comply with the sacrificial law and system of that day, we would thereby have demonstrated unbelief in Christ.
Now, if ever we lived in the Old Testament, when this law was still binding, before Christ had come, and you say, I'm not going to perform anything, I'm not going to perform this law, you could have displayed a serious unbelief, right? Let's hear.
But since we are living in the Christian era, if we should now observe the typical sacrificial law and system, we should thereby demonstrate unbelief in Christ, who has come.
Right. So if we perform these rites or kill the lamb now, that's why Paul kept on saying to those who were denying that Christ had come. He told them in Colossians 2 verse 14 that no, the ordinances that were blotted, that were nailed to the cross, are the animal ordinances in verse 14. But in verse 16 is saying the new moon, the Sabbaths, the holy days are still a shadow of things to come. So this is, if we perform this animal sacrifice at this Christian era, then we are saying Christ is not the one who came. So it should stop because Christ had already come. Right. Now, let's go to second law. The second law.
The second part of Moses' law is the law by which Israel was to rule its people, the civil or legal law.
Right.
The law which defines what penalty the government should impose upon those who are caught stealing, killing, or the like.
Right. So we saw the statute book, which was put in as a national law. The laws that they were given those days was that if anyone does this, should be stoned. This one should be killed. It was a statute. It was part of the ceremonial law, which gave them that. Right? Let's hear about it. It was the national law at that time. Yeah.
Now, since we are Christians, do not have a government.
Read it properly.
Since we as Christians do not have a government of our own, but are still under the government of the nations of today, we personally or as a group are not required to enforce the legal law of Moses either.
That one doesn't apply to us. Why? Because the national law was there in time of Moses. It's not there in our time in the governments of the nations. That same law which was there with Moses saying you should stone this one, take him to what and what, that was a ceremonial law. We do not have it. And it's not applied by us. It's also a second part of the ceremonial law. Let's see to the third part of the ceremonial law. Let's hear.
The only law of Moses, therefore, that we can possibly be admonished to remember is the third part of his law,
Right?
the moral law,
Uh-huh.
which consists of the things that pertain to us as individuals, the things that we as individuals must perform,
Right?
the things that perfect our character, the things that make us a peculiar people.
Uh-huh.
We, therefore, need to search out and to do things contained in the moral law of Moses,
Right?
the commandments,
1,
and the statutes,
2.
and the judgments.
These are the 3 that are still binding. Now let's hear a demonstration of them. We have the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments. These have to do with us doing a part. What are we? In commandments, what are we doing? We are not stealing. That is to do with us. We are not killing. That is to do with us. We are not breaking all these 10 commandments. This is to do with perfecting our character. And when he says, keep the feast, as we keep the feast, we are fearing God. We're told that's the purpose of the feast, to fear God, and we need the protection. That is from the keeping the statutes, and we also need, so these laws that have to do with our own being, our character, our protection, our fear, our righteousness, they are still binding. These are the third part of the ceremonial law. So you see how vast the ceremonial law is. It's got portions, about 3 that I've made. The first portion has to do with the sacrificial, the laws of the temple, which are the sacrificial. They were all pointing to Christ. So they are nullified. So the second law was a civil, the national government of Moses, which was giving him right to stone to want whoever has broken the law. That one we do not have. We are still in all these national governments which are not particularly with that law. So they are nothing to do with us for this moment until we are in the kingdom. In the kingdom there is no sinning, so they are gone. The only law that remains is that to do with our own being. The 10 commandments, the statutes or the feasts, and the judgment. These are to do with us, perfecting our character. This is what Christ, Sister White is saying. We should assemble from new moon to new moon to practice, to qualify to live in the mentions above. So these are the laws that are still binding upon the ceremonial law. So when you say don't keep the ceremonial law, you say you are not keeping the laws that have to do with perfecting your character. They are all in the sermon. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 5 on this estate, 5 verse 31, and see these ones.
5 verse
31.
But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto 31.
Deuteronomy 5 verse 31, yeah.
But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments,
One.
and the statutes,
2.
and the judgments,
3.
which thou shalt
So
teach.
this is why these ones are now particularly full. That's why he's saying the commandments, the 10 commandments we have. But what we are not keeping are the statutes and the judgments. These are the feasts and the judgment. What are the judgments? The laws that govern neighbor to neighbor. Human beings and beasts, all those are in the statute. All the statutes and the judgments, they have been left aside. That's why he has to particularly send a prophet before the great and dreadful day to make sure those all 3 are with us. We don't have the sacrificial, and that's read where you are reading.
But as for thee, stand thou here by me, and I will speak unto thee all the commandments,
Right.
and the statutes, and the judgments, which thou shalt teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess it.
Right. So these are all the things that are still binding. Right? Go to Deuteronomy 4 there, verse 26.
I call heaven and
Right.
earth to witness
Right.
against us against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land whereunto ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it,
Right.
but shall utterly be destroyed.
Now, what makes us prolong our days? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Because these laws were not only given as just a narrative, but they were given for a purpose by God, for our own benefits. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 1. Let's hear.
Now these are the commandments,
1,
the statutes,
2,
and the judgments,
3.
which the Lord your God commanded to teach you, that ye might do them in the land whither ye go to possess it,
Right?
that thou mightest fear the Lord thy God, to keep all his statutes and
Right.
his commandments, which I command thee,
Right?
thou
Right.
and thy son,
Right?
and thy son's son,
Right?
all the days of thy life,
Right.
and that thy days may
May
be prolonged.
So what prolongs our days? What gives us length of days? Are these laws? They were given for a purpose, to lengthen our days. But how does the day lengthen my days? Because they connect me with the fathers above. That's Malachi chapter 4 says. It will bring the power of above and connect us together. They make us fear God and draw God into our lives and protects us from everything that is around us. So these are the laws that he says they were given so that we are protected, so that we fear God. And read on and finish there in Deuteronomy 4 verse 26.
4 verse 26.
Yeah. You have said these will prolong your days.
Your days.
Right,
upon
let's
it.
hear.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day, that ye shall soon utterly perish from
Right.
off the land whereunto you go over the Jordan to possess it.
Right?
Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations, and ye shall be left few in number among the heathen,
Right?
whither the Lord shall lead you.
Right?
And there ye shall serve gods,
Right?
the work of men's hands,
Right.
wood and stone, which neither see nor hear nor eat nor smell.
Right. So this is the reason why God, for some time, he had these people in the land. And after these people were there, when they transgressed these laws, the commandments, the statutes, the judgment, he scatters them. But now, when we, the children, are keeping these laws, he promises he's going to take us from all the countries and bring them into their own land. Why? Because they now agree to keep these laws, the commandments, the statutes, the judgments. And these ones are the laws that he wants us to keep so that we prepare for the kingdom. So he is particularly sending Malachi or Elijah in Malachi 4, and sending Elijah to come and give these laws, to simplify them in the fifth angel's message under the covenant of God, to make you and I qualify to be in the kingdom. And these are the laws going to sustain us in life. These are the laws going to protect us. These are the laws that are coming under the fifth angel to join in with the third angel's message, as God has been trying all along to make sure he produces a peculiar people who are going to have the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, led to be prepared by Elijah's message under Elijah to meet God and form what is called the church triumphant. You and I cannot miss that opportunity. May God bless this message and bless each and every ear, so that we don't only hear, but we are the doers of this word. God bless you.